Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Newcastle upon Tyne Unitarians this Sunday morning. You are all very welcome, whether you are new faces, old faces, whether you're joining us here in chapel or online, you are very welcome. My name is Diana. I'm a member of the congregation here, and I will be leading today's service on becoming a fair trade church. Before we begin, I'm going to start, as ever, with our values statement. As Unitarians, we do not have beliefs in common, but we do have values that we hold dear. We at Newcastle Unitarians welcome all who seek the meaning of life and who believe that human spirituality is wider than any one tradition and deeper than any one set of opinions. With a respect for our Christian origins, we seek to explore all truths from all sources. Our fellowship gives us strength and encouragement in daily living. I'd like to invite Louise now to come up and light our chalice.
Welcome all. The chalice is our symbol of Unitarianism, lit at the start of all of our services, and we light it today with these words. Man does not weave this web of life. He is merely a strand of it. Whatever he does to the web of life, he does to himself. Words from Chief Seattle.
We recently became a fair trade church, so a big thank you to Ben for organising that. And Fair Trade Fortnight begins tomorrow, so we thought we'd have a service to celebrate and explore what this means. I'm indebted to the Fair Trade and Tradecraft and to Louise for the information here. Most of this is not original. I'd like to invite Ben to come up and read a reading from the Bible. This is from the New International Version to start us off. Thank you, Ben.
A reading from James chapter 2, verses 14 to 17. What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save him? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to him, "Go, I wish you well, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead.
Thank you, Ben. I know we don't often have Bible readings, and we had that one only a few weeks ago from Stephen, but it seems so appropriate not only to this service but to Unitarianism in general that I thought we'd have it again. So a little bit of history. The Fair Trade Foundation began in 1992 as a way of trying to ensure that producers and suppliers are fairly paid. For farmers and workers, fair trade means workers' rights, safer working conditions, and fairer pay, as they are paid a minimum price for their goods. And for shoppers, it means high quality, ethically produced products. Choosing fair trade means standing with farmers for fairness and equality against some of the biggest challenges the world faces. It means farmers can create change, from investing in climate-friendly farming techniques to developing women in leadership. The Fair Trade Foundation is a force for good in the world, and it is something that we should all consider supporting more. Fair trade works with farming cooperatives, businesses, and governments to make trade fairer. Their vision is a world in which trade is based on fairness so that producers earn secure and sustainable livelihoods. It began following persistent appeals for fairness in trade from Mexican small-scale coffee farmers. I thought you might be familiar with some of these brands and companies, so I'm going to go through a little bit of a timeline of how the Fair Trade Foundation has developed. In 1994, the first Fair Trade certified product was launched, which was Green and Black's Maya Gold chocolate, made with cocoa from Belize. And it was followed shortly after by Cafe Direct Coffee, Percol Coffee, and Clipper Tea. In 1998, we had the first Fair Trade honey, and Divine Chocolate was launched, which I'm sure we are all familiar with. Based in Ghana, it's the only farmer-owned chocolate company in the world. In 2000, we got the first Fair Trade bananas. In 2001, we had the first Fair Trade town, which was in Lancashire. Now we have over 650 communities who have fair trade status, and there's a network of over 2,000 fair trade towns worldwide. In the early 2000s, the co-op converted all of its own brand chocolate to fair trade. We got the first fair trade oranges, grapes, flowers, wines, then fair trade cotton, and we even have fair trade and Fairmined gold. So it isn't just food, we also have fair trade textiles. And some of the current supporting retailers are Co-op, Waitrose, John Lewis, Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's, even Greggs and Nespresso. I like the Greggs. So on top of the price that farmers and workers receive for their produce or labour, they also receive an extra sum of money called the Fair Trade Premium, which they can invest however they see fit to improve the quality of their lives. Cocoa farmers, for an example, receive an extra $200 per tonne of cocoa beans. And in 2018, more than 166 million pounds of fair trade premium was generated through sales and given back to communities. Just to give you a bit of context, looking again at chocolate, it produces massive profits for some, but it's grown mainly by small-scale family farmers. $2.50 a day would provide a living income for a typical cocoa farmer in Côte d'Ivoire, but they typically earn less than $1 or 76 pence per day, which is well under the poverty line. So this means that many of the people who are crucial to making some of our favourite products, in this case chocolate, continue to work hard, but are not paid enough to be able to access their basic human rights. I'm going to read now from an interview. This was an interview given with a cocoa farmer in Côte d'Ivoire with the Fair Trade Foundation, explaining a little bit about his life and what fair trade has done for him. This is Ebrotier Tano Florentin from Côte d'Ivoire. He said, cocoa prices are disastrous. You end up after costs with around £811 for the year. When a farmer gets up in the morning, he is always worried. How will he be able to feed and take care of his family? How can he send his children to school? It's going to be difficult to pay for their school and medical care. A child needs protection and rights. Before, this protection did not exist, but now, with fair trade, the situation has improved. A child is entitled to have access to education, health, protection, and food. Before, there were a lot of forests. The rains were regular and the seasons well divided. It was easier. Now we don't know anymore when we should plant and when we should stop. Climate change has an impact on crops, which results in less money and less food. But now we're in the Fair Trade project, we have access to training, and someone who is trained is someone who can decide. So today, the training that Fair Trade provides gives us knowledge about plant diseases and how to improve our productivity. There are 5 million farmers in the Ivory Coast who suffer, who struggle to survive. There's no minimum income. And if someone does not have the money to survive, what can he do? If the situation does not change, I think people will stop cocoa farming because the incomes are too low. If the consumers are satisfied but the farmers suffer, the future is very uncertain. That was from Ebrotier Tano Florentin, cocoa farmer in Côte d'Ivoire. So he is benefiting from the Fair Trade Foundation's work, but you can see it is still very, very difficult. I want to use the words of another person in Uganda who discusses the Fair Trade Premium, how beneficial this has been. This is Ketra Kyosimire from Uganda, working as an accountant and farmer with a coffee cooperative. Using the Fair Trade Premium, they've put up schools for farmers' children, started a scholarship, and they can pay school fees for higher education, enabling women to take up leadership roles, including Ketra herself. It's helped farmers grow their businesses, educate and empower their children. But climate change is affecting coffee tremendously. This is what Ketra says. We call upon you. We call upon you to buy more fair trade products. The more you buy fair trade products, you get it in mind that you are helping a farmer and the families at the grassroots, and I thank you. When you read about the impact of fair trade, especially of the premium, education and healthcare are the two things that come up again and again. The knowledge and skills and confidence gained from the schools is untold, and the clinics providing healthcare to workers is immeasurably valuable. But as we heard, climate change is making farming even more challenging. We'll sing again before we carry on, because I know this is quite intellectual, so thank you. Fair Trade Fortnight takes place at the end of February into the start of March, and it begins tomorrow this year. And every year it has a different focus, and this year it's focusing on the harmful effect of the climate crisis on the future of our food. This year's campaign will highlight that whatever your budget and wherever you shop, when you choose fair trade, you are supporting farmers to take care of the environment through fair trade's price, premium, and programs. But it will also highlight how the increasing threat climate change poses to some of the planet's most beloved food products, as well as the livelihoods of the farmers and agricultural workers who grow them. It will show how the future survival of the world's most popular foods, like bananas, cocoa, and coffee, hangs in the balance unless we achieve inclusive and equitable climate solutions, with farmers and agricultural workers playing a central role in the climate response. Let's look at bananas, just for an example. It's the world's most popular fruit, an estimated global export value of $7 billion per year. It remains the cornerstone trade of many countries' economies. For more than 450 million people around the world, bananas and plantains are vital staple crops, particularly in some lower income nations. But amid the impact of climate change and the resulting threats posed by many diseases, the future of bananas is increasingly at risk. Dramatic weather patterns spurred by climate change will likely deliver severe blows to agricultural production in key regions around the world, like Latin America to the Asia Pacific. Banana producers in the Caribbean and in Central America are expected to experience less rainfall and more extreme temperatures. In Southeast Asia and Oceania, they'll see an increased risk of tropical cyclones. So this Fair Trade Fortnight will highlight the urgent threat to the future of British staples produced overseas. I think it's very easy to look at these things and think, it's a long way away, it doesn't affect me. It does. Without our support for fairer prices today, farmers will find it even harder to tackle the climate and economic challenges of the future. Smallholder farmers have a critical role in addressing climate change. They have the expertise and knowledge to do so, but they simply can't afford to foot the bill for adapting to economic and climate changes on their current incomes. And there is a huge amount that we can all do. Fair Trade is asking each and every one of us to act now and shop fair trade so farmers can keep going through these tough times. By choosing fair trade now, you are helping to protect nature as well as the future of our food. Centuries of exploitation of people and planet by the world's wealthiest have caused this climate crisis. 50% of global emissions are the responsibility of the highest earning 10% of people. It's worth thinking about those figures for a minute, because it's a very small proportion of the world really that's causing such a massive difference and causing such massive harm. It's the communities already facing extreme hardship due to unfair trade who are feeling the worst effects of climate change. Increasingly extreme weather, more frequent diseases, and more insecure food supplies. So wealthier nations like us are responsible for the global systems that have caused the unfair climate crisis. One thing we can do is tell our politicians it's time to own up to our responsibilities, and we can be part of building a fairer and greener future. Our governments need to invest in the expertise of farmers who tackle the climate crisis every day. And the governments who are most responsible for our unfair trade system need to fund this work so farmers can make an even bigger difference. Governments need to deliver on unfulfilled promises to fund climate action in low-income countries. Communities on the front line of the climate crisis need to take a leading role in deciding how any funds are spent, but they need to have the funds. I know that seems a little bit depressing, but it's very important to consider how people live their lives and produce for us, and it's important that they are paid fairly. I thought we'd look a little bit at Unitarian histories now, because the Unitarian movement in the UK and the Unitarian Universalist movement in the USA both have a long history of supporting justice in labour and in trade. Fair trade might in some ways be called the successor to the abolitionist movement. And although it is true that not all in the movements supported the abolition of slavery, many, many did. These words are from Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, an African-American writer. She wrote these words in 1866. "We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity. And society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul." The 1790 Universalist Convention in Philadelphia passed this resolution on holding slaves. This was written by Benjamin Rush, who was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. "We believe it is to be inconsistent with the union of the human race in a common saviour and the obligations to mutual and universal love which flow from that union, to hold any part of our fellow creatures in bondage." In 1835, another Unitarian minister, William Ellery Channing, wrote in Slavery, "He who cannot see a brother, a child of God, a man possessing all the rights of humanity under a skin darker than his own, lacks the vision of a Christian. He worships the outward. The spirit is not yet revealed to him. To look unmoved on the degradation and wrongs of a fellow creature, because burned by a fiercer sun, proves us strangers to justice and love in those universal forms which characterize Christianity." Ralph Waldo Emerson, another Unitarian, wrote in 1844 that slavery is no scholar, no improver. It does not improve the soil. Everything goes to decay. A Protest Against Slavery was written in 1845 by 173 Unitarian ministers. And this small extract goes thus: "We, meaning Unitarians, we contend for mental freedom. Shall we not denounce the system which fetters both mind and body? We have declared righteousness to be the essence of Christianity. Shall we not oppose that system which is the sum of all wrong? We claim for all men the right of brotherhood before a universal Father. Ought we not to testify against that which tramples so many of our brethren underfoot?" Looking more locally, in the Northeast and Tyneside specifically, Tyneside played a surprisingly influential role in the abolition of slavery. There had been a recent and dramatic experience of English white working class solidarity with the Black cause and the abolition of slavery in the United States. Many American abolitionists and fugitive slaves who made frequent trips to Tyneside to speak at meetings were held at the Gateshead and Newcastle Anti-Slavery Society. When the workers of the Lancashire cotton mills lent material support to the anti-slavery cause, they found solidarity on Tyneside. And a great effort was launched at the time to collect money and clothing to sustain Lancashire cotton workers. Although, of course, at the time, racism was still very prevalent, there were a number of local liberal journalists For example, working for the Newcastle Daily Chronicle, which is now known as the Evening Chronicle, there were many who spoke out against hostility towards Black people. One quotation, "We deplore the prejudice against colour, and we are severely censorious towards those who exhibit it." That was in January 1865 in the Daily Chronicle, which was the paper that was owned and run by Joseph Cowen. So you'll be familiar, some of you will be familiar with the name. He was a radical liberal politician and journalist, and one of the charities that we support locally, who supports homeless men in Newcastle, was named after him. One of our own ministers, the Reverend William Turner, for whom this hall is named, was a minister at Newcastle's Hanover Square Chapel, so well before this building was built. He was Newcastle for 59 years. He was minister for 59 years. You may know his name locally as he was a founder of the Literary and Philosophical Society, but he was also a leading campaigner against the slave trade. He chaired the Newcastle Society for the Abolition of the Slave Trade in 1792, and he supported later campaigns to abolish slavery in the British colonies. So there is quite a strong tradition, even locally, of abolition, but importantly, supporting each other as a global human race. I found a study from the 1980s from the University of Oxford looking into British Unitarians and their attitudes towards American slavery. And it had this to say: British Unitarians in their anti-slavery activity were devoted to the common welfare of the human race, to racial tolerance, and to participation in reform as an ecumenical endeavour. Their motivations for anti-slavery reform in particular arose out of a liberal theology with an emotive drive against social evils, a capitalist ideology that believed in liberating progress, a political philosophy that favoured freedom, honesty, and benevolence in government, a nationalism that saw England's destiny as protecting and encouraging human liberty at home and abroad, and a familial attachment to the members of their faith and reformers of the same persuasion that was mutually supportive and rewarding. So we've always felt, generally as a movement, that we need to support each other and fight injustice. I'd now like to invite Bill to come and read a poem. This is a poem by a Unitarian minister on Thomas Wentworth Higginson. He wrote and published this hymn, it's actually a hymn, called The Nation's Sin in 1846 at Harvard. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction. The land of our fathers is left to us, is foul with hateful sin. When shall, O Lord, this sorrow end, and hope and joy begin? What good though growing might and wealth shall stretch from shore to shore, if thus the fatal poison taint be only spread no more? Wipe out, O God, the nation's sin, then swell the nation's power, but build not high our yearning hopes to wither in an hour. No outward show or fancied strength from thy stern justice saves. There is no liberty for them who make their brethren slaves.
So despite all the changes, slavery and exploitation have not gone away. Wherever there are humans, there is greed. But equally, wherever there are humans, there is kindness, caring, and the desire to support one another. We're really just fancy talking monkeys, and we will continue to have a sense of belonging to a tribe, our in-group, and we always will have a feeling of caution, even fear, for other groups, the not us tribe, the them. It's part of our instinct. But if you bring every human into your circle of belonging, into your circle of kinship, and see all of us as part of your tribe, then that suspicion dies. When all are family, the desire to harm others or to do them harm indirectly through carelessness fades away, and wanting to help, that feeling of compassion, that grows. One way you can act is by buying fair trade products. Fair trade was born from this drive to support, not exploit one another. Fair trade has done an enormous amount to ensure that producers, farmers, and suppliers get what they need to live and thrive, to grow their businesses and support their communities. But the work is not done. Exploitation still happens, all so that many of the wealthier nations can have lots and lots of food and goods to consume and dispose of cheaply and without value. So what is the cost? Human life. If your cheaper coffee costs a worker's health, then what's the point? And if your cheap top costs a farmer's daughter her education, why buy it? You're choosing your own comfort over another's life. Our commitment to becoming a fair trade church may seem like a small act, but it's one that's part of a huge and growing call to action. For us, as a place of worship, it means only serving fair trade refreshments where we can. Our tea, coffee, and sugar are fair trade. Thanks again to Ben for being on top of that. But it does also mean for you, our congregants, that if you do want to bring something in for refreshments, look for the fair trade logo when you do. But it's also a call in your own life to look for fair trade for yourself. Support the farmers and producers who give you the products that you love and enjoy. Value the work that they do. Our commitment also means that we aim to encourage and promote the purchase of fair trade goods. You might see some of the posters that Louise has very kindly brought in and the t-shirt that you're modelling for us. It's important that we value our goods and food, because if we don't, people really do suffer and it's not worth it. I encourage you to bring everyone into your circle of kinship so that you feel that you want to support them, value their work, value your food and goods. I encourage you to look for fair trade where you can.
Eternal Spirit.
Us, that we may comfort others. Eternal Spirit, change us that we may act in support of the world. Eternal Spirit, awaken us that we may do something to fight poverty. Eternal Spirit, ignite us that we may with passion love our neighbour. May it be so. Thank you.